A SEAL commander slammed his fist on the table. I need a pilot now. Emily Mitchell looked at the broken watch in her palm and smiled. Then listen closely, she said. We're not taking the sky you think we are. The strip wasn't a runway. It was a scar across the earth, a dusty road that refused to end. Heat trembled above it. Wind combed the thorn bushes until they leaned like tired sentries. Emily Mitchell walked the length of the packed dirt, counting her steps. She wore boots that remembered too many landings. In her pocket, a broken watch thudded softly against her leg with each stride. It had cracked during a hard landing years ago. She kept it anyway. It still pointed at some stubborn truth about time. It fails you if you stare. A convoy rolled in, tan and loud. Doors banged. Men spilled out, sunburned and wired. A man with a square jaw and sand on his eyelashes stalked toward her. The patch on his sleeve said Navy. The aura said, "Don't argue." "Commander Rourke," he said. "I lead the team. We need a pilot. We need you." Emily looked past him to her aircraft, a single-engine workhorse that had the patience of a mule. The left flap had a scratch that looked like a lightning bolt. She had once traced it with a fingertip before takeoff for luck. She did it now just once. "What are the constraints?" she asked. "We have 8 to pull from a canyon village," he said. "Hostile perimeter, rotary down. Their intel is time-sensitive." He laid a folded map on the hood of a truck. The wind threatened to lift its corners. He pinned it with his hands. A thin river line cut the paper like a vein. The drop zone sat where the ink had pooled. He waited for Emily to flinch. She didn't. "You're thinking too slow," he said. "I'm thinking," she said. His radio hissed. A voice barked coordinates like thrown stones. He stepped closer, heat and urgency in his shadow. "I'm not asking," he said. "I'm demanding a pilot." She glanced at her watch. The cracked glass swallowed the sun and scattered it. She closed her fingers around it. "Okay," she said, voice even. "Then you'll listen." He blinked at the audacity. His men stared. "We don't go straight," she said. "Not over the ridgeline. They'll have eyes on the obvious line of flight. We skirt south, ride the noon thermals, and come in like a bad idea that doesn't look bad yet." Rourke's jaw worked. "Fuel? I've got enough for the wrong way," she said. "Which is why we're not flying heavy." Her wallet sat in the cockpit tray. It held 2 receipts, a laminated license, and air. She pulled it out, flipped it open, and let him see the nothing. "Empty," she said. "Same with the plane. No extra crates, no heroics with weight." "You're calm for someone saying no." "I didn't say no," she said. "I'm saying yes correctly." He cut a glance at his team. They were ready to move, ready to force a door in the air if air had doors. He leaned on the hood. The map paper squealed under his hands. "What's your name?" he asked, as if that would solve the math for him. "Emily Mitchell." He weighed it. Decided to trust gravity for once. "Fine," he said. "We do it your way." She nodded. "Good. We start by taking off where there is no runway." He frowned. She pointed to the far end of the dusty road where a pale strip vanished into a mirage. "We're borrowing distance," she said. "I'll need every inch." He looked at the shallows of the strip, then at the heat-broken sky. "And if we don't get lift?" She tapped the broken watch. "Then the watch will be right for the last time." Engines from somewhere distant rolled over the hills like thunder learning to be brave. The radio crackled again. A word cut through. "Incoming." A dull boom pulsed the ground. Dust leapt. From the ridge a puff of gray flared. "Mortars," someone said. The first tube whistled through the heat and dropped its tail like a scorpion. Emily slid into the cockpit, buckled, and touched the throttle. The mortar found the far end of the strip, the same far end she planned to borrow. She pushed the starter. The prop jerked, coughed, and died. Silence hit harder than the mortar. The prop stood still, a black hand refusing to wave. Emily inhaled and exhaled once. Calm was an action, not a mood. She reached for the wallet. The leather was soft from years of sweat and sun. Empty, yes. Useful, also yes. The throttle friction had been misbehaving. It crept when it should have stayed put. She pulled a bent receipt, folded it narrow, and jammed it under the friction plate, then wedged the edge of her wallet against it. The lever stopped drifting. She nudged the mixture, primed again. Starter. The engine caught, sputtered, held. It sounded like an old dog deciding to run anyway. She smiled without showing teeth. "Go, go, go," Rourke shouted. His men pushed at the wing roots to pivot the nose away from the fresh crater that smoked like a warning. Emily jerked her head at the gear doors. "Dump the cargo net," she said. "We need those rounds," one SEAL protested. "You need altitude more," she said. "You bring rounds, you bring gravity with a grudge." Rourke snapped. "Drop it." Burlap thudded to the dirt. Weight wrote a new equation in her head. She rebalanced the numbers with a jab of rudder and a different takeoff roll. She eased forward. The wheels bumped over ridges and scars. The mortar team adjusted fire. A second plume kicked up closer, throwing grit against the fuselage. The window rattled. Emily tasted dust. She kept her hands light. Speed built like trust you earn. Slow, steady, then suddenly noticeable. She leaned into the left crosswind. The plane wanted to weather vane. She denied it with 2 quiet corrections. The horizon rose and fell, indecisive. Heat shimmered, turned noon into a mirage that lied about distance. "Trees ahead," someone shouted. "They're shrubs," Emily said. "They just believe in themselves." The tail lifted. The plane shrugged off some ground, then wanted it back. She told it no with a touch of back pressure. The far end of the strip was closer than her pride liked. The first crater waited like a mouth. "Come on," she whispered to the prop, the wing, the stubborn molecules under them. "Remember how?" Shadow peeled from the wheels. A heartbeat. 2. The brush passed under like fingers you don't dare touch. The crater lip reached for them. She lifted a hair more. The mains cleared with a cough of dust. They were flying. Barely. But the earth had stopped arguing as loudly. A third mortar landed behind them and flung its disappointment at their tail. The blast slapped the plane sideways. Emily caught it with opposite rudder, a palm finding a shoulder before its owner fell. Rourke leaned forward between seats. "We're good?" "We're possible," she said. "What's the plan once we hit the ridge?" "We don't hit the ridge," she said. "We dance around it." She trimmed. The nose came down a whisper. Airspeed edged up. She felt the grain of the wind with her wrists, the way a potter feels clay. The canyon inhaled and exhaled thermals. She tuned to them. The altimeter twitched higher. Below, the dusty road thinned to a pale scar. It looked innocent now. It was not. Her radio hissed into life. "Unidentified single engine. This is sector control. State your intentions." Rourke raised an eyebrow as if to say what I want. Emily pressed transmit. "Sector control, this is civilian tail November 37, humanitarian contractor. Diverting south due to terrain." "Negative, November 37, the voice said. "Restricted airspace to your south. Maintain current heading." Rourke jabbed a finger at the map. South was safety. South was surprise. North was obvious. "Say again," Control said, sharper now. "Maintain heading." Emily loosened her grip on the yoke until her pulse stopped telegraphing lies to the wings. She banked 5 degrees left. Not enough to admit it. Enough to begin the long curve of disobedience. Rourke's hand tightened on the seat back. "They'll ground you for that." "They can try," she said. "But not while I'm up here." A flake of sunlight slid across the cracked watch face. It looked like a river running uphill. The VHF spat a new voice. Clipped. Authority wrapped in static. "This is Commander Rourke, SEAL Team. We are on board. We require direct approach to grid Juliet 6. The frequency went quiet for a beat that stretched. "Acknowledged," Control said finally. "Proceed at pilot's discretion." Rourke shot her a look. "Your discretion better be as good as your attitude." "It usually is," she said. They eased toward the south. The canyon opened its mouth in shades of iron and bone. Turbulence tugged. A downdraft punched the right wing. The plane dipped like it had nodded off. Emily woke it, coaxed it level. A dull thunk vibrated the pedals. She glanced at the engine gauges. Oil pressure steady. Cylinder head temps, fine. Fuel left, not fine. The left tank gauge sagged as if bored with optimism. A damp line trailed from the wing root and licked the side window with a thin shine. Leak, she said. How bad? Rourke asked. She looked at the canyon, at the grinning stones, at the empty wallet wedged under the throttle, at the broken watch that had never once been wrong about endings. Bad enough that straight to the village is suicide, she said. Then what? She nudged the plane lower toward a pale sheet that looked like bone. We land, she said. On what? She pointed. The salt. The wind rose hot and hard as if insulted. It wasn't a lake. It was an idea of a lake, dried and laid flat to catch the sky. The salt pan shone like frost under a cruel sun. Heat made mirages stack like cards. Emily brought the plane down with the care you reserve for a secret you must not drop. She slipped between crosswinds. She kissed the ground with one wheel, then the other. The aircraft rolled. The salt hissed. The smell of minerals bit the air, clean and ancient. Rourke stared. You've landed here before. Twice, she said. When? When I was poorer than now, she said, then nodded at the empty wallet. Which is a trick. The leak streak left a fragile silver on white. She taxied to a patch where the surface looked firmest. The wind bullied from the west. She let it. The prop idled, slicing the heat into useless pieces. Off, she told the engine and shut it down. Silence came back muscle by muscle. They tumbled out into the glare. The salt threw light up into their eyes. The horizon turned to a taut string. The broken watch lay heavy in her pocket. She resisted looking. Time in this place felt like a dare. We have minutes, Rourke said. I need 3, she said. 2 if you don't talk. From the survival kit she yanked a length of clear tubing, a rag and a collapsible bladder bag. She knelt by the right wing. This side feeds clean, she said. We borrow. The men formed a loose circle, weapons outward, eyes scanning the endless. One crouched beside her. You're going to siphon? Yes, she said. You good at gravity? He grinned despite sand and fatigue and fear. I'll hold the bag. She pushed the tube into the tank, sucked, fought the bitter taste of avgas and spat. The flow started. Clear blue, perfect and poisonous. It whispered through the line into the bag. A tiny river she pulled from a sky they couldn't trust. Another seal shaded her with a jacket. Shade felt like mercy. Rourke stood watch on the plane's far side. He was impatient, which in him looked like a statue trying not to run. You're calm, he said, not looking at her. You're loud, she said. I'm measured, he said. You're loud inside, she said, so you add volume to the outside in case the world forgot you're here. He glanced back at her then, and something old and tired passed through his eyes. Maybe, he said. How many minutes now? She thumbed the bladder. Almost 1 tank. She pinched the tube, swapped to another container. The salt bit her knees. She switched the rag to her other hand. She didn't let the line slip. The broken watch nudged her thigh. Hurry. A dust smear rose on the far side of the pan. It could have been heat. It could have been vehicles. It grew. It gathered. It split into 3 streaks. Rourke lowered his binoculars. Trucks, he said. Not ours. Emily capped the bag, sealed the vent, and jogged to the left wing. The leak had slowed, not stopped. She dug in the tool roll, found a sliver of safety wire and a scrap of rubber. She cinched a field bandage around the weepy fitting. Crude, not pretty. Pretty was a hobby. This was survival. We need to go, Rourke said. We will, she said, tightening the wire until the rubber bit the metal and the leak became a reluctant bead. She wiped it with the rag. It stayed dry. She nodded once. The trucks fanned out to bracket the pan. Dust climbed their flanks like applause. Sun flashed on windshields. It flashed again, and again. Signals, a seal muttered. Emily hauled herself into the cockpit. She slid the bladder onto the seat and spiked the fuel with her jury-rigged funnel. The laminating sheet from her license curled into a V. clipped with a paper clamp she'd stolen from a clinic months ago. The bladder sagged as the tank drank. She worked fast. The radio coughed. A voice in accented English offered help he didn't mean. "Pilot, land and be searched. Your safety guaranteed," Rourke snorted. "He's offering us a chair and a fire." Emily didn't answer. She tossed the empty bladder down, kicked the starter, and the engine obliged. Maybe it felt the trucks too. Maybe it wanted anything but salt and stillness. She skimmed the surface, nose light, wheels hungry for air. The prop blur cut a line in the scene. The trucks were closer. They had machine guns mounted, mouths opening. She fed power. The plane shrugged. Speed came like a promise finally kept. The salt pan ended in a lip of cracked mud and a tangle of low brush. The wheels popped free. They ate a slice of air. The brush passed 50 feet under. A bullet stitched the scene behind them, late and angry. They banked toward the canyon village. Rourke tapped his map. "One ridge to go, then we're in." "Then one ridge to exit," she said. "You always do this," he asked. "Count the leaving before the arriving?" "I used to forget," she said. "That got expensive, and what did it cost?" She slid the broken watch from her pocket and showed him. The glass caught a mean light. The hands were frozen at 0317. "A friend," she said. "And a perfect time I don't trust anymore." The canyon widened ahead, a crack between teeth. Something moved inside it. A new sound, like a metal cough. "Helicopter," Rourke said. "Markings?" Emily asked. "None." It rose into view, low and lean, peeling the air in impatient circles. Its door gun stared at them without blinking. Emily lowered the nose, feathered power, and slid into the canyon's shadow where the walls took their side for a while. The unmarked helicopter followed. It darted left and vanished behind a bend. The canyon held cool for a breath. Then the heat returned, channeled and mean. The riverbed below was dry, a ribbon of dust that pretended to be water. Emily flew the shape of it like reading a line of poetry without trust. She keyed the intercom. "We're not outrunning that helicopter," she said. "We're out-timing it," Rourke frowned. "Meaning?" She held up the watch. At 0317, the sun hit my father's airstrip at a shallow angle. You could see the stones cast long shadows across the ruts. You knew where not to put your wheels. This canyon does the same trick. "You're going to fly by shadow?" "By what the shadow hides," she said. She bled altitude until the walls towered. The air was rough but honest. The helicopter came back into view above and behind, hungry and curious. It believed in power. Power saves you until it doesn't. Emily watched the left wall, then the right. She waited for a slickness of shade that meant a ledge, a break, a recess. There, a triangular pool of dark hung like a flag cut from evening. She banked hard into it and let the plane vanish for a heartbeat. "Where did you—" The gunner's voice cracked over an open frequency, startled. Emily grinned. "We're not ghosts," she said to no one. "We just think like stone." They slid out of the pocket and into light again. The helicopter overshot, then corrected, then realized correction had a price. It was bigger, faster, but the canyon had rules for everyone. Rourke leaned forward. "Village?" "2 more bends," she said. "If we survive bend 1. The helicopter made a poor choice. It cut the corner tight. Downwash kicked dust into the dry river in a spiraling tantrum. The pilot fought it. The gun tracked and then lost them as they ducked into another shadow. The sound fell behind for a breath. It returned angrier. Emily's eyes burned less from sand than from the memory under the watch glass. A night, a valley, a rescue that became a retrieval. A perfect time. A broken thing. She eased the yoke and let the plane skim a hand's breadth from rock. A wingtip felt like an eyelash brushing stone. She didn't blink. They burst into a wider chamber in the canyon. The village squatted ahead, mud walls sun-bleached, roofs patched with tin. Smoke smeared the sky. Figures ran ant-small. A flare popped weakly, green, then died. "There," Rourke said. "Our people." Emily circled once, high and lazy. It was a lie. She measured sightlines, arcs, and bad luck. She mapped where the helicopter could put its teeth. She saw a strip of hard-packed riverbed that widened like a held breath. "You're not thinking," Rourke began. "We don't have numbers to think with," she said. "We land, we leave, fast." She slipped into a descending turn, engine barely above idle. The helicopter hesitated. It didn't want to commit to their game. Good. She liked its doubt. Wheels kissed dirt. The plane bucked. She held it down. People ran. 8 figures. One limped, supported by two others. Dust rose in curtains. A child appeared at the periphery, barefoot and curious. A woman snatched him back. The team piled in like a practiced spill. Weight shifted the center of gravity aft. The plane sulked. Emily shoved the throttle. The wallet wedge held. The engine took her side. "Go!" Rourke barked. She didn't need the word. She already wanted motion like oxygen. The helicopter returned, slicing low along the wall, its shadow ripping across the village like a black river. Emily raised the tail. The riverbed ruts demanded tribute. The plane protested. She paid with speed. A shape stepped into the open ahead. A man with a scarf and a competence in his stance. He set a tripod. He lifted a tube. The sun found metal. He didn't hurry. He didn't need to. RPG, someone said, too calm. The man sighted. The rocket wanted to be a line. Emily preferred curves. She mashed rudder. The plane kicked sideways. The wheels skated gravel like beads on a wire. She lifted just enough. The rocket flew through where they were and went looking for regret. It found only sky. They clawed free of the riverbed and into a shallow climb that felt like an apology. The helicopter committed now, greedy. It dove to cut their path. Emily saw the gun swing. She saw the flash of intent at the barrel's mouth. She pushed the nose down and the world rushed up as if insulted. She aimed for a narrow alley in the canyon wall, a place no polite plane would go. Rourke caught the back of her seat with both hands. "You can't fit." "We can," she said. "We're smaller than our fear." They shot the gap. Stones scraped their noise like fingernails on tin. The helicopter balked. It couldn't follow, not with its blades and its pride. It banked away, choosing safety, promising revenge. Emily held the plane level by force of will and 3 millimeters of aileron. The alley spat them into a shadowed bowl where the air bucked and fell, and then smoothed as if someone had ironed the wind. They had the team. They had the sky, then the engine coughed. It coughed again. A note went flat.